A very warm welcome back to your latest industry developments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would certainly be appreciated. In today's coverage, well, there's focus on Lufthansa that are going to see some major disruption this week. Avelo are expanding, and there's news on Asiana Airlines. Let's begin with Asiana Airlines, who have been conducting a brief 2-month test period of operating twice-weekly flights between Seoul and Melbourne in Australia, and they've unveiled new plans to return. As part of these new plans, the airline will once more return on a seasonal basis from July 2 through to September 2, 2024. This will be actually the third time in recent history that the airline has launched towards the city. The first attempt came moments before the arrival of the global pandemic, and was Asiana's attempt to understand market demand to make the service hopefully more permanent in the future, providing this connection went well. Ongoing discussions were present, and those indicated that had the pandemic not arrived, the airline would have been very interested in operating year-round, as it enjoyed a very successful brief stint into the city. However, with zero travel demand thanks to the pandemic, especially towards Asia, and airlines finding ways to more so preserve their business rather than, say, expand, there was no return date for Asiana expected, and they faced bigger problems. That is completely understandable. That commitment, though, to Melbourne changed in 2023, when you may recall that Asiana Airlines announced it would commence once more a 2-month trial to the city from December 2023 through February 2024. This service announcement would see twice-weekly flights operated by the Airbus A350. By all accounts, these services have succeeded as we now approach the final week of this operation, and we should see now Asiana return sooner rather than later. However, the city will have to wait a little bit longer for a year-round service announcement, although by all accounts, that should be a formality at some point. From July 2, the airline, like I said, will return to Melbourne, but this service will see double the amount of flights per week that occurred during this most recent 2-month trial period. So again, during the summer holidays, Asiana offered twice-weekly flights. This will increase to 4 flights a week during the upcoming 2-month stint from July to September. Service is expected to operate on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, with a departure from Melbourne Airport at 11:10 p.m. and therefore a touchdown in Seoul at 9:15 in the morning the following day. Looking ahead, if demand was to, say, continue between these two cities, Asiana Airlines would no doubt like to make such a service year-round rather than seasonal, and in some instances a temporary trial. You'd like to think, though, that if it's any indication that they're doubling services for the next stint, they'll look to make it permanent very soon. On to the next story of today, and that is Lufthansa customers, and say those also attempting to travel in and out of Germany this week, will likely have a pretty tough time of it, as fresh disruption comes in the form of strike action. Airports such as Frankfurt, Munich, Hamburg, Berlin, and many others are all slated to be affected, as Lufthansa cancels up to 1,000 flights, and thus up to 90% of its schedule over a 30-hour plus period, tentatively at the moment. The disruption comes from ground staff, who will strike, following the trade union representing tens of thousands of employees seeking better conditions and pay. If there's one thing that you can't ignore, it's inflation, and as this continues to grow, and in such a demanding role as ground crew, they believe that they should be better compensated for their efforts. Away from pilots and some other safety-critical roles such as engineers and people in maintenance, the pay actually for those working in aviation has always been considerably low for the work that is required. Think of it, our ground crew are out there in the snow, hail, storms, and soaring heat, and as a result, the industry has actually been a bit of a deterrence for many amid the rising cost of living. It's not an attractive option if it's not going to adequately pay the bills. As a result, result of this, typically in these lower paying jobs, and amid surging demand for airlines, aviation companies have been significantly understaffed and struggle to recruit at times. Because while the jobs I mentioned, such as ground crew and even those inside the airport doing face-to-face roles, may not be paid as highly, they are absolutely critical. And if you don't have enough employees there, you're going to see a significant effect on your service. The strike action is not the first time that something similar has happened, and Lufthansa really has become all too familiar with it. The union is calling for a 12.5% pay rise and a one-off inflation bonus for workers to try and combat the unfavourable conditions and just generally the rising costs of everything in our world. Previously, the offers by Lufthansa were deemed insulting, with the overwhelming majority rejecting the contractual terms that were offered by Lufthansa in the past as a way to end the action. While the strike is only slated to occur over a day and a half, it is substantial enough to cause disarray to the typically robust Lufthansa network. However, such action is believed to be necessary to get the message across. Strikes really are a last resort, and again, a way to send a message to the company in question to offer better terms for either payment, or this could go hand in hand with overall working conditions. The union says it'll be in continued communication with Lufthansa as they attempt to resolve the situation. Are you being impacted by this strike action? Or are you potentially a Lufthansa employee that is seeking better pay? You can drop your thoughts down below in the comments. And on to the final story of today, Avelo Airlines is celebrating the first birthday of operating through its new base in Raleigh-Durham. And to celebrate, it's launching 3 new East Coast routes. The first service will commence from May 9 with Frederick Douglass, Greater Rochester International Airport, and Greenville International connected. Avelo says this will operate twice a week, and then from May 10th, we'll have a twice-weekly service also from Albany to Raleigh-Durham. On the same day, Avelo will launch Manchester-Boston Regional to Greenville too. Avelo says that since opening a base in Raleigh-Durham, it has served more than 230,000 customers, with more than 1,700 flights operated. These figures follow the opening of the base on February 15th, 2023. Following the opening of the base, Avelo says it also was able to add a second aircraft. Additionally, the airline says it now employs around 90 Raleigh-Durham-based employees. This includes pilots, flight attendants, airport customer service members, and technical operations crew, among many other roles. Since launching in 2021, Avelo has more generally flown 4 million customers across 30,000 flights, and now serves 48 destinations across 23 states, plus Puerto Rico. The airline focuses on offering as much convenience as possible to its customers, with low-priced fares and other initiatives undertaken by the airline. Have you had the chance to fly Avelo during your time? Let me know. And that's going to conclude today's aviation news recap. If you have any thoughts, you know the best place to leave them is down below in the comments. Do be sure to stay tuned as the Singapore Air Show rapidly approaches. In fact, it is commencing tomorrow, so we'll see what comes from that. Keep your eyes peeled on your subscription boxes, or maybe you're not subscribed and you just see these videos on your homepage. Either way, do stay tuned, and I'll see you very soon. And we'll fly.